What's up, boys? Welcome back to another video. We're going to be talking a little bit about the complaints I have about this car. Complaints I have about the MK7 GTI. And it's interesting because I love how fun this car is, but I don't love how underperformed it is. You know, like, I know they made a Golf R, I get it. And I get that, you know, with the Golf R, you have that bigger turbo and more power, but I just kind of wish this car had a little bit more than what it had. You know, I think the front wheel drive kind of ruins it for a lot of people. I think vintage aspect is what people really love about the car, especially with the plaid seats. I never loved the plaid seats, but some people have. Yeah, I think for me, it's just, I like the way it drives. I think it's a great travel car. Like, I think it works when you're on road trips. I've taken a couple good long road trips with this thing, and packing up the car, it's actually pretty roomy. It's not bad. It's really fun to rip it, especially, you know, me all the way down south or whatnot. It's a fun car to drive, you know, for sure. And I think, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, I like the car, but there's something that could be said that could be better. And I think, you know, the Mark 8 has definitely did a little bit better with the Mark 8, just trying to inject a little bit more power into it, a little bit better handling. But that front wheel drive is probably one of my biggest complaints about it. I know it would probably deplete a little bit of the value of a Golf R if you had front wheel drive in this, but still, I think a Golf R is something that they should revolutionize rather than the GTI. So the GTI should be your fun little compact car that has a smaller turbo and that has a decent amount of power with, you know, all-wheel drive. And then I think what you should do with the Golf R is you just completely do a different type of motor. Maybe you go back to the VR6, maybe you do like a 2.5 liter, maybe even if it's a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder with a completely different turbo. I think you change it. I think doing the exact same motor with a different turbo and then add all-wheel drive is the same car. The Mark 8 GTI and the Mark 8 Golf R, same thing with the Mark 7 and 7.5. They're the same thing, just all-wheel drive and different turbo. So I think what they should do is they should completely change it up. I think they should change the motor in the Golf R, and that's how you're gonna add value. And I think that's just kind of like another complaint that I would have, is that they're the same thing. And that's why the GTIs are not as good as they potentially could be, or they have been in the past, because they decided to just continuously go with the same motor. And when you keep going with the same motor and you're not changing anything, then that's kind of why everything's kind of boring. I don't know, I just feel like the Mark 8 GTI is somewhat similar to the Mark 7. I feel like it should be completely different, because when I look at a Mark 8 Golf R, and I've driven a 7.5 and I've driven an 8, and when I've seen those two, they're completely different. And from a GTI standpoint, it doesn't feel all that different, which is unfortunate. I think it doesn't have what it deserves because of what they've done with the Golf R. They flagshipped the Golf R and decided to just kind of keep a GTI as a fun little car that people like, when they don't realize that the GTI made Volkswagen what it was. Between the Volkswagen Bus and the Beetle and the GTI, this company wouldn't be where it is right now. I'm not a huge fan of the lag. I don't really like how it takes a while for the boost to build. So like all of a sudden it like shoots you like a rocket, and all of a sudden when you expect it to shoot you like a rocket, because it's done that a couple times, and then it doesn't, it's it feels slow. It feels a lot slower than it should be. And that's just the overall feel of this car. Obviously, as you guys know, I haven't gone stage 2 yet, so stage 2 is definitely, you know, gonna kind of depict how the car is in its entirety, essentially. But at the same time, it's still missing, because most people are either gonna potentially do a stage 1 or they're just gonna keep the car stock. So I'm kind of just going on what I've experienced while owning this car for the last 2 and some odd years. And it just needs a little help in certain categories. Like right there, it shot me like a cannon. Like, I actually had to stop it from doing it because the thing will shoot you. And then sometimes you'll go to accelerate and it doesn't go anywhere. It's like, it's a slow moving vehicle. It's terrible. And I don't know, I don't like that. If I'm gonna consider this a performance car, I want something that is consistently going to shoot me, especially when I spend thousands of dollars to tune it and modify it. I expect it to, you know, I have this thing at stage 1 plus with a DSG tune, with an intake, with a throttle pipe, with an inlet, with an exhaust. I mean, I have some base parts on it. I know I don't have the stage 2, and I got a couple $1,000s worth of parts in this thing, and it's still slower than a Golf R. You know, I just think it should, there's a little bit more, you know, that's what I don't like. That's what I didn't expect from this car, that when I would modify it, it would still be kind of slow and laggy. I didn't think you know, if I do a stage 1 on a Golf R or stage 1 on an Audi S4, not even an RS is a totally different story, but even just like an S3 or an S4, those cars go instantly, gone. Super fast, 400 horsepower. And then this car, which people make it seem to believe that when you tune it, it's like this fast, super fast car and it's crazy, and then it's not. So I'm not confident that I would win a race in this thing against any car, to be honest with you, unless it was like a base Toyota Camry or something. That's different. But this car up against another modified vehicle, I don't think I'm winning. You know, so those are kind of some of the complaints I kind of have. I mean, other little like nitpicking ones, like the Apple CarPlay doesn't really work as well as I'd like it to. Every once in a while it kind of glitches out, lags out. It's been doing that ever since I got it. Not really sure. It's one I'm assuming it's one of the, this is one of the first gen Apple CarPlay models. 2016 was the first. This is the 2017. So this is like the second year they had Apple CarPlay in these models, and I'm not a fan. Personally, I don't think it's really as efficient as I thought it was going to be. I don't love that 2017s don't have auto start. I think it should have an auto start. I don't like that. You have to wait till the 2018 model all the way to 2018 to get an automatic start on it. I'm not a fan of that at all. I think that's a little rough. Kind of another thing I'm not a fan of, as I'm kind of saying this, is I'm not really a fan of the plastic creaks. Actually, of course, it's not as bad today, but the plastic creaks are bad because over time, as you're listening to music on your radio, what happens is your plastic pieces start vibrating because they're getting brittle and old. And I know this car is 7 years old, but it's been doing it ever since I got it when it was about 3 or 4 years old. And not loving that. I don't love the sustainability of the plastic pieces. Yet again, Volkswagen, come on. I know I don't speak for myself when I say this, because there are people that own BMW M's, M3s, M4s, and they do the same thing. So it's just the older models they didn't put enough money in. I've heard some of the newer models of the M's and, you know, the R lines and Golf R's and stuff like that, they've done a little bit better, but not a huge fan of that. And another thing that I really can't stand in this car that I don't think I've ever said, but I really hate, is the window switches. I hate the window switches in this car. They're very, very like finicky, and they don't really like to work. So you have to like press down really hard for it to go down all in one, because it's like, it's not one touch. What it does is, if you tap it, it goes down manually. So you have to keep tapping it or whatever to put it down. So you have two options, which is cool to have two options, but still, you either can do it manually yourself by putting it down to any level you want, or if you pull the button really hard, it'll go up by itself. And same thing if you push it down really hard. But most of the time when you do that, it doesn't want to work. I've pushed the button down all the way and it still does like the manual mode, where it only goes down a little bit if I keep touching it, or I have to press it really, really, really hard to where I feel like I'm breaking it for it to completely go down. I'll give kind of a prime example. Can't do it around this curve, too many cars. Like, it goes, don't get me wrong. It just, I don't know. I feel like it could have more. I feel like it needs more. I honestly feel like it really needs more stock more than anything. Factory, this car went nowhere. This car went absolutely nowhere when it was stock, and it was just terrible. But overall, it's a fun car to drive. The engine whine is a little too 4-cylinder-ish, I guess, for me. It's not jolty right now, and it's weird because it has this weird mode thing where it doesn't like to be jolty, but if you switch modes and then you go back to the mode that you were in and then you accelerate, it gets like super jolty. I don't know how that works or why you have to do that to initiate it. A little weird, but like, watch. Now it's like super jolty. 370Z right there, nice. I don't know why it gets like that, but it does. That whine, I don't know. I don't love that whine. Even like third gear. If I just like hit it in third gear right now, it takes forever to build up. And the car has over 320 horsepower and it doesn't feel like it. That's what I don't get. It doesn't feel like it has that power. It feels like it's got maybe 260, 250. But I mean, I guess I'm kind of happy I got this car, because this car really kind of got me into the car building world. So I got to kind of build some cars and, you know, do different things. I got to kind of, you know, get an opportunity to build this car, and I think it was really a great opportunity to build it because the car itself is fun and it's not super slow. So I just want you to know that, yeah, it's a complaint that it's not as fast as I thought it was gonna be, but when you put it stage 1, it's not gonna be super like, it's not gonna be like, oh wow, it's not going anywhere at all. Like, it's gonna go. It's gonna go, it's gonna be torquey, it's gonna be kind of jolty and aggressive, it's gonna do something. It's just not gonna do, don't expect it to be a demon. Don't expect it, and I don't mean a Dodge demon, I mean like just a demon on the road. Don't expect it to be a car that's just gonna haul ass all day long, and when you races, it's not really gonna find its way on the track. It gets, you know, it gets out of its own way on the highway. It definitely has some power. It definitely feels pretty solid. The overall experience with this car and the overall feeling of it, everything I've done so far to it, I would give this car probably a 7 out of 10. It's missing a couple things, but overall it's pretty solid. I think this is a perfect first build car, and it does what you need it to do. I mean, it's gonna be a quick car. I mean, especially if you're like a 16, 17-year-old teenager. I don't know where I am. Am I in a different town? Yeah, I am. Okay, I didn't know where I was. I've never been over here before. I don't know what this place is. Cool. New adventures with Cam today. We're going to places we've never been. I think I'm near my home. It's now a couple days later, and I haven't closed out the vlog yet, and I just realized that I'm editing this vlog currently. That is gonna be the end of today's video. I just wanted to do a couple closed remarks kind of on the GTI. Like, in the video, I did kind of complain about a couple of things, but I just want you to know I do love this car. I mean, this car kind of really revolutionized me wanting to build more vehicles. Like, that's why near the end of the video, I literally said this is a perfect first build car, because like, I wouldn't choose any other car to build right now for my first car to build. I didn't really get to build the Passat. I did a couple of custom things, and that was really it, and it was okay. This was my first car I actually got to buy parts, and I actually got to modify it, got to fix it a little bit, and I got to kind of see what it did, and that's why now I'm ready for more of like a little bit of a higher end car, because I want something that doesn't take as much to get more power, but I can do the same amount of things I did to the GTI, if not more, and make even crazier power. I had to do a decent amount of stuff to this car just to make decent power. But I will say, if you are looking for a car on the market to build, and you just want something that's pretty quick off the line, it's not gonna be anything crazy, but it's gonna be a pretty fun car to drive, this is the perfect car. It's not super luxurious, but it's like in the middle, and it will get you to where you need to get to in a pretty fun fashion. And I will never regret buying this car. It's honestly one of the best cars. It's the best car I've owned so far. It's faster than the Passat was. It's so much cleaner, crisper. It looks nice, feels nice. Obviously, there are some things I wish that were better with it, but the car overall has been really cool. It's been a really good experience. I've been loving building it on this channel, and we're not done yet. So I'm excited for it. But boys, that is gonna be in today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell next to it so you get notifications whenever I post videos, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.